Welcome to Tight HSD's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are at. And I'm Todd DeVoe, and I'm the Director of Merchant Management at Tight HST, and I'm also a teacher at the post-secondary level, where one of my things to do is I like to learn things and share things I learn. And, I'm a curious person. I guess one of the reasons why I like to read and learn all sorts of stuff and kind of just dive deeper into subjects. And sometimes I get caught on a subject that probably wouldn't really think I'd ever get caught on. And today we're talking about leadership, talking about team dynamics, and looking at sports teams, are one of those things that makes sense, right? Talking about the great coaches of football and basketball and the managers of baseball that won multiple World Series and whatnot. But I started looking at NASCAR, right? And the reason why I started looking at NASCAR is because I have a friend of mine, when I was in the service, one of my roommates, he was a great NASCAR fan, right? Wayne Johnson, shout out to you. And anyway, I didn't get it, right? I mean, like, okay, great. People are driving in a circle. How is this exciting? And I have family members that like NASCAR, and I guess, I have no problem with the sport necessarily. I just didn't really understand like the why, right? And I saw a documentary one time on the pit crews, and I was like, "Whoa, this is an amazing athletic group of men that have to participate in doing the pit crew." There might be women in the pit crews now. I'm not sure, but in this particular thing they're showing, and they're recruiting tier 1, division 1 college football athletes, mostly, that just didn't make it in the NFL, but were still able to do great things. And man, this pit crew they were specialized, switching tires out, right? Figure this out. Switching tires out was like a job, and refueling, maybe clean the windshield, whatever, like what the pit crew does, and they're doing it fast, right? And like super fast. Like extremely. They have pit crew competitions. This is how crazy this pit crew thing goes. And one of the guys was talking about the fact that if they were just like a tenth of a second slow on changing that wheel out, changing that tire out, that they could actually lose space, like almost 10 car spaces back on the race. That's a huge difference. And I was watching the race on Sunday, the end of it, just because my wife actually is in the NASCAR again, and so these cars are bumper to bumper, pushing each other around the track. And at the last second, some kind of craziness happened, and this guy who was like in third place, going around in the last lap, when the white flag goes down, ends up winning the race. Right? Fantastic finish, exciting. Now, this goes back into the concept of team dynamics. Everybody on that NASCAR race team, like on that car, that guy who's driving the vehicle, right? There is a full team behind them, all the way from mechanical engineers, body experts, the crew chief, obviously, like the pit crew, the guys that are out there changing the tires and filling the gas. Everybody has a specialized role, and they have to work in sync together to get that job done of getting their car across the finish line, hopefully in first place, within these high speed 190 miles an hour bumper to bumper traffic with cars pushing each other around, right? Understanding the aerodynamics, everything that goes into making that car and making that car go fast as it can go, right? And you could talk about the drivers. I don't know. I'm sure there has to be some difference between driver A and driver B, whether they win or not. But it seems like the top tier drivers of NASCAR are all pretty well, the same quality driver, right? I'm guess some people might have a better decision making process or whatever. But I mean, I wouldn't say like the guy from who made number one and the guy who came in last necessarily. Their driving skills are less than right each other. I mean, they're there for a reason. Um, but the crew itself, though, right, all together as a team really makes a difference. And I think that's when you see the guys when they win the race they thank their entire team. And I don't think it's being falsely humble at this point. I think that realistically, it's they would not have won. They would not have crossed that finish line if it wasn't for the entire team. With the coach, if you will, the crew chief, being the person who's keeping everybody together and on sync. They practice this just like you would see the pit crew practices like you'd see NFL football teams or any other high level sport team practice. They have weight rooms and tracks and practices and speed coaches and everything else that you'd see on the high level athletic teams. And that's why I really find it amazing to see that type of performance that comes. Well, why are we talking about this as business continuity today? Because what you need, if you could grab some of the concepts of the of breaking the team down into the fundamental parts of what they have to do to be able to respond to a crisis when something occurs, right? And having your Q being the crew chief, right, as the emergency manager, the business continuity manager, being the crew chief, being the orchestrator of that organization, having the faith and the trust that each team member is going to do what it needs to do in a time of crisis, right? To be able to get get your organization across that finish line, right, in first place, right, with everybody in tow. And that's really what this is about. It's a team dynamic, right? If you take a look at how that crew chief gets his tire changers working well, his refuelers working well, understanding that vehicle, making the little tweaks and that need to be made, knowing when to change the tires, knowing when to come into pit, right? All those things play into that car being successful at the end of the day, and that team being successful at the end of the day and crossing the finish line. I really find that dynamic very interesting because we talk about the concept of commander's intent. We talk about the concept of saying, "Hey, we have faith that you are going to do your job well," right? And without the micromanaging that goes behind it. I mean, that is what they have to do as a team. The understanding that the person who says, "Hey, we're going to change the tires out," that guy understands that the jack guy is going to jack up the car correctly, the fuel guy's fueling correctly, staying in their lane, doing their job as perfect as they could possibly do it. Each component of that team makes it flawless and fast. And this is the dynamic that you have to bring to your team, that you ought to bring to your team, right? Is being able to say, I understand what your role is, what you're doing, right? You understand what the person who's doing next to you's role is doing, but you're not doing that role, right? You don't have to do it. Know that they're going to do it properly. And you do your role flawlessly and on time. And then the next person next to does that, and things will go smooth. When you start looking at teams and teamwork and things to emulate, I think NASCAR is one of those things that you can take a look at. And there's plenty of resources out there that have done studies on NASCAR. Matter of fact, I'm pulling up one right now that was in, oh my gosh, just lost it. Oh, that was in Inc. magazine. All right. And they're talking about how each role is fantastic compared to the other. And so much so that this winning crew chief that they have here, this guy's been crew chiefing this particular car for 12 years, the Napa 24 car, for those of you that are NASCAR fans, for reference. His name's Allen. His last name is Allen. He has this thing. They go into these meetings on their morning meetings, and they were talking about this particular sheet metal problem. And he went, "Great, okay." And he didn't tell them what to do, didn't ask for the resolution. He knew that his team was going to find the resolution to the problem without him having to micromanage it, and it's going to come through, and they're going to test it and make sure it works. That's fantastic. As leaders, this is the way we need to be with our team. Say, hey, what are the problems that we see? They can report the problems. You ask them, is there anything I can do to help you? If they say, no, we got it, boss, that's awesome. And you just move on forward with that. You don't have to tell them exactly how to do their job. Because if you're in the position of telling people how to do their job during a crisis, you're not going to be able to do your job. You're not going to be able to resolve it. You're not going to be able to move the organization forward. This all starts back when you look at formulating your team, right? Forming your team, putting it together, and then practicing, right? And going through those steps. Project management, right? Type of stuff is you're going through practicing those steps, making sure that they're in line. And when game day comes on, when if a crisis occurs, you're ready to do things right. You can trust your team. Decisions will be made properly, and you'll be able to resolve the issue and move the organization forward. Hey, everybody, for all your communications needs, please check out Titan HST. We're doing some crazy innovative stuff over there, talking about working with teams. We're working with all sports teams right at this point, if you like it, and at least the organizations. And it's great to see it being put into practice. If you can check out on our LinkedIn, we have a series on how Titan HST supported the Super Bowl. And I think that you guys would find that very interesting as well. So until next time, please, everybody, follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And until next time, stay safe, but stay hydrated.